Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Kate McGovern, and today we're addressing issues in our community from a solution with a Christian perspective. And today we have with us LisaTurner, and Lisa's going to be sharing with us about blended families. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kate.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here today, Lisa, and I'm excited to hear about your mission and your passion for blended families. So tell me a little bit about what is a blended family and what's not a blended family.
So a blended family, a lot of times they get confused sometimes because you think about interracial families. But what I mean when I'm saying blended is for a family that has maybe what's considered a step parent. Perhaps there was a death in the family, or there was just a single parent that married, or maybe there is a divorce that happened and you're on a second marriage. We're talking about that when I'm talking about blended families.
Okay, so tell me, what do you do for the blended families? What's the impact that you're making to help blended families?
What I've seen with blended families, being in a blended home myself, growing up in a blended family, and then now I'm a mother in a blended family, what I've noticed in our family coming together, my husband and I have 4 children.
Okay.
We have a daughter that I had, and her father passed away. And then we have 2 boys from my husband's previous relationship. And we have full custody of everyone. And what we had to do and the things that we went through, as we went through those processes and the trials, the tests and things, it really became a testimony. And as I was doing it, God put on my heart, beautifully blended. And doing that to bring families together. A lot of the things that we went through, just making sure you had different legal situations taken care of, or even counseling, think about those things and making sure that everyone can be connected at the heart.
What do you think, Lisa, that a blended family goes through that a regular family might not be experiencing?
So there are times where we get together and we might have to just think about, okay, am I going to spend Thanksgiving at my in-laws' house, or am I going to spend it with my family? Well, in a blended home, you might have to think, okay, are the kids going to be staying with their mom this weekend, or are we going to have them?
Sure.
We're sharing holidays, so you have that calendar situation. Sometimes there are situations where if you get a better job opportunity. My family moved to the Midwest from the East Coast. You get a better job opportunity, you have to think about those. Well, is it really going to be within my custody to move, or how am I going to work this out so that my child can still spend time and see that other parent and they can remain in a relationship? So you have to think about those things that you might not necessarily think about in a traditional family.
What has worked best for you coming from a blended family, Lisa, and now having a blended family? What are some of the things that you have applied that are making a difference that you share with others?
What I loved about growing up in a blended family is I was able to see the good things and able to see the bad things. And you always want to learn from someone else's mistakes, so you don't have to repeat them. And so I was able to do a little bit of that. And I have sisters, and we've never referred to each other as a half-sister or a step-sister. We've always referred to each other as a sister. You're my sister. One of the things that was one of the things I wanted to implement. One of the things I didn't like, just in that time frame of growing up, not that my parents or my step-parents didn't want to claim or didn't know how to do things or were trying to be evil at any point, but it's kind of when you're trying to introduce your family, if you run into a friend or something in the store and they see you with all these kids, they don't know how to explain it and they feel like they owe an explanation.
Sure.
I didn't want to have that. I didn't want to have to explain, oh, this one belongs to so-and-so and this one belongs to this. That was never something that I wanted to be a part of my family. So when I am talking about my children, I talk about my girls and my sons, and they are my girls and my sons. And it's funny because when I meet people and I start discussing my passion and discussing Beautifully Blended, they're like, I didn't know that you had a blended family.
Wow.
And that's the awesome testament to me. I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you, God, for doing that for us. And allowing that to shine through. Not that we're the model by any means, but you want that to shine through for them.
So I'm really hearing a wholeness that you're talking about, that, the blessing of the blended, God's hand is on that. And so we think of Romans 12, and it talks about the renewing of your mind. So it's actually a way that we look at it. It's a perspective that,
Yes.
These are my children, they're under my roof. It's not he's or she's. So share a little bit more with me about that, about the power of that, because just when that person said that to you, it impacted you. You were so thankful because that's what you're wanting. You're wanting the world around you to see. That's the influence.
Definitely. And so when I think about Beautifully Blended, I think about it as a language. As you brought up Romans 12:2, it talks about the transforming of your mind and not being conformed to that, but to be ye renewed.
Right.
And when you renew your mind, you're taking those old things away. So you're taking out what society might want to categorize as a broken family. And you're saying that blended does not mean broken. It doesn't mean that. We're taking that away, and so we're using the language, changing things so they're not divisive. Because we want every parent wants to pass on generational blessings and not generational curses to their children. And so we're using, instead of saying, I am your stepmother, I'm your stepfather, I say things like your bonus parent. The bonus parent, the bonus father, the bonus mother. We have things such as, double the love, double the parents, double the love. And that's embracing the beautifully blended family and doing those things to help make it a blessing and not a curse.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really hearing about the blessing of the power of your words. We know that life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yes.
And so, it either brings unity or it brings division. And so part of the blended family is really how you're speaking to the children and to your family and as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would want to add to that, Lisa, of that brings that wholeness into the picture for your family?
You also want to bring in that other parent. Coming into a marriage, you don't want the other parent to feel like you're in any way going to overstep your bounds with them. You want to know if you have a child that's coming back and forth. You want to make sure that, is there anything that's going on? Do they have anything you needed to work on? Is there something happening at home that we need to also make sure it goes on here, so that they feel like you are helping and not hindering, and you're not trying to come in and derail or start your own program. And it's not about the other parent trying to run this home. We're trying to do what's best for the child.
Mm-hmm. And how does that work with the other parent on the other side? I mean, what is the blending of that? What's the communication that builds that blended family?
A lot of times when you have this other parent, there's something that happened where the other parents are not together, and you want to make sure that hurt people don't hurt people.
Right.
We want to turn that around, and it takes time. Sometimes it takes time for people to heal. You might have to give them space and work within limitations, but you always want to present yourself as a friend and not an enemy. And you want to, at some point, we as the parents involved in the situation have to say, okay, I'm going to put on my big boy pants and I'm going to deal with this because it's what's best for my child. So that means making sure that you maybe have some boundaries. I'm not going to introduce you to my children yet until I've talked to the other parent involved, and we all have a set time or an opportunity just to get acquainted before that happens.
So tell me about the breakthroughs that you're seeing with families as this is really working, what you're doing and really blending the families and really speaking to it as a whole. Tell me some of the breakthroughs that you're seeing in families.
When you're seeing this, there are several stories that I feature on Fridays. I do a feature Family Friday, and there are several stories of families that are actively being able to converse with co-parents. They're being able to talk to one another. They're able to share, even finding just different technology apps. They can share calendars so that everyone involved knows when Susan has a appointment, or when they have a doctor's appointment, or when they have a play that they can all go to. There are opportunities where yes, I went through the hurt and I was very bitter at first, but I sat down and I prayed about it and I thought about it, and I'm like, what do I really want for my child? Because this is what's most important. And they were able to break through the barriers of the bitterness and move beyond that, and now they have an awesome relationship even though they're not together. And then that leaves the openness for the other parties, or if just moving on, maybe you're moving on to another marriage, that means that you're not taking baggage into something else, and it really helps.
Yeah, I know the scripture that says, don't look back, but to keep moving forward. So you mentioned the word bitterness. And so what's the process of really moving through that pain and that hurt, for, the children? Maybe they don't want to be with this new blended mom. Maybe they want to be with their other mom or dad. How does the agreement and all that really work, where the child is feeling loved and not feeling like it's got to run back somewhere? You know what I'm saying?
You have to build a rapport with that child, and it takes time. You're not going to be able to just rush into it and overwhelm them. You're going to have to take your time, and it depends on age. From at 2, it would be different from how it would be at 12, but you take your time and you talk to them. Maybe it's just making them feel at home in your home. I say this all the time when I do, like on Work It Out Wednesday, we're discussing the home. A picture says 1,000 words, and if you have a picture of that child in that home, they can see themselves in your house, then they feel a sense of belonging. Sometimes it's not so much what you say, but what you do and the actions that you have behind it, your consistency. Especially with the teenagers, you have to be consistent. They will try you and they will test you, but you have to continue to be consistent, understanding that it's not going to be, oh, yay, we're blended, you love it. It's not always going to happen that way, but they see the consistency and you continue to be that consistent figure and show them, demonstrate the love, they'll come around.
Tell me a little bit about what the children respond to the most. I know you just shared a little bit, but what are some of the things that you've seen in your own family that you really see the kids respond to and maybe get excited about as being a member of a blended family?
My children are very excited about being part of a family and always feeling included. I've told my bonus sons from day one that I've built trust with them. I'm not in any way trying to replace your mother. You have a mother. I'm another parent here that wants to see you win. And I've always ran on a platform of trust with them.
Sure.
Then I'm like, dude, have I ever lied to you? So, no, you haven't. Okay, so when I'm telling you something, then I'm telling you the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts, but I'm not here to be your friend.
Sure.
I want to make sure that you know what's going on and that we're clear with one another. And when they can understand that, then they know they have someone they can rely on. And that's helped a lot in our situation.
Fantastic. So trust is a real foundation in the blended families. And I just want to thank you for being with us. And we're going to be right back, viewers, with more from LisaTurner and Blended Families.
More than 600 people are living with HIV and AIDS in the Quad Cities.
Over 150 of them don't know it.
The project at the Quad Cities provides support to hundreds of individuals and their families in Iowa and Illinois.
We've performed thousands of confidential HIV tests and helped HIV-positive mothers give birth to 18 HIV-negative babies.
Our mission, your life, the project of the Quad Cities, committed to action in the battle against HIV, STI, AIDS.
See these hands? They grip the wheel of a Humvee in Afghanistan.
These hands? 6 years treating soldiers.
12 years. Flying choppers.
We know you're strong, but sometimes you need a helping hand. You served us. Now let us serve you. The Iowa City VA Healthcare System.
Hey kids, what's a great way to start your day?
Wake up early and take over the bathroom before your brother?
No! First, fruits and veggies. Second, walk to school.
Yeah, we walk the safe route to school every day, Skip.
I know, Scout. It's a great way to get some exercise.
And look, our community garden.
Yep, right in our neighborhood. So we can eat healthy.
And move more.
Made possible with funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome back to Join Our Town. I'm your host, Kate McGovern, and we are addressing issues in our community with a solution from a Christian perspective. And we are speaking on blended families with LisaTurner. Lisa, welcome back.
Thank you.
And we've been sharing about, the healing and the wholeness of blended families and how to look at your children not as a stepson or stepdaughter, but the bonus parent, the bonus child. So let's talk right now about the breakdowns. There's breakdowns in these blended families, and that's why, you know, we have the restoration that you're talking about and how we see one another. So talk about a day when it might be different from a blended family to a regular family and some of those breakdowns and what you're actually addressing in those breakdowns to bring a restoration to the family, because Jesus is the restorer of the breach. He takes those broken places and he begins to bring them back together. So if you could share a little bit about that, Lisa, that'd be great.
Sure. I think the breakdown itself begins, let's say, from if there was a divorce that happened, then the restoration actually should begin when you're going through that process of divorce. When you're going through that, when you're setting up, you're saying, you're looking within yourself and you're saying, okay, what do I have here? I have children, I have myself, and I do desire to be married again. Then this is, what do I need to do to set this up accurately, or what's going to be the best foundation to provide for my family in the future to come. And so what happens is sometimes that's not done. And then you get into a blended family and someone's feelings are hurt, or they don't like what you did here, and we're going back and forth to court. One of the things that we kind of stray away from is using court as a preventative measure. And setting up things, even just in between, not even having to go to a trial necessarily, but maybe just a mediation, and talking things out with someone else and saying, okay, these are the boundaries that we're going to have. Yes, we're no longer together, but we do wish to be married to someone at some point.
Right.
And so we're going to set these boundaries within ourselves. We've already established what our custody situation is going to be and how these things are going to work. And we can say this is how whatever person we're going to be with is going to fit within these boundaries for us. And this is what we're going to do. You have to start somewhere to set in a foundation for what you want for your family.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll get into situations where you have kids coming home, or they're so-and-so picked me up from school today, and you're going to get them and they're not there, and it breaks down the communication. If you cannot communicate with that co-parent, there's a big breakdown there, because then you have kids who think that as they get older can play both sides, and they don't want to do what you're saying that has to be done in one home. Both homes are not working together.
Yeah.
And that provides stress not only on the family and the other children that are there, but also on the marriage. And you don't want to have that type of stress there. One of the things that I think is also awesome is counseling is not just for something when something is broken.
Right.
Counseling is an awesome tool to be used for preventing and preventative, just as legal counsels can be used for preventative. And so my family, for instance, we went to family counseling. When we became one, I said we have 4 kids now. My daughter is now the oldest of 4, and she was the only child for 7 years, 8 years.
Sure.
She was the only child, 9 years. She was the only
time.
child, yes. And then I was pregnant when we were going through custody battles for our boys, and 2 weeks after I had our youngest daughter, we got custody of the boys as well. And so we went from 1 child to 2 children to 4 children in 2 weeks. And so family counseling for us was awesome.
Sure.
We were able to just figure out, okay, I'm getting to know you, you're getting to know us. You've changed environments, you've changed time zones, everything. What can we do? How can we make this inhabitable space and have everyone connect? We're not all connected by blood, but we can be connected by the heart.
Right.
And that is what we have to do to break those things down. And you're still going to come into things that happen. But if you start that foundation there, then as things come about, discipline, all of those things that come about, you'll have a better foundation to start that conversation. And then you work into it. You don't just, hey, I'm Lisa. Don't do that. You just can't start that way. You have to build that rapport, but you work your way into that, and it starts with that foundation. And if you find yourself in a situation where you haven't set that foundation yet, and you're running into obstacles and problems, it's never too late to start working it out and working on it and going back to it and saying, okay, let's fix this.
Yeah. I love that you said the heart. You know,
Yes.
it's the connection of the heart. Tell me a little bit about, you know, the boundaries we put up are to protect us. And lots of times people on the outside of those boundaries don't like those boundaries. And so how does that work for the parents on the other side? Once the boundaries are set, is there adapting? You know, what do you see on the other side? I mean, tell us. That's a little bit more blended on the outside. So
Yes. So when you're coming into a situation and you say, yes, I'd love to date you. I have children, and you know, while there's no drama here, we do have things that we have set in place because we want to see our children succeed, and we know and understand that we're going to be meeting other people. These are the things that we have going on. This is what we do, this is what's happening, and you want to get to know it, learn it, understand it. Of course, as you develop a rapport, things change.
Sure.
You know, positions change, the atmosphere, maybe the climate for what their job is somewhere changes. You might meet somebody that just doesn't happen to live where you live. All those things change, but they have to be willing to understand, this is my family dynamic.
Yes.
And are you ready for that? And you can be honest about that. Are you ready for that? And if you're not, hey, it's okay. But if you think you are, okay, these are the things that you want to know. I want you to meet this other person, because we make sure that we introduce one another. While I'm not with this parent, we do have respect for one another because we have children together.
what do you think is the key ingredient to the blended family?
I think the key is the respect and getting past the hurt. Because again, hurt people, but they don't just hurt themselves.
Right.
They pass that hurt along. And so if we can get to a point where we again can put on our big girl panties and be respectful, we can get to respectful and then start building ourselves up and start repairing ourselves and getting to that healing, then we'll be able to realize what's at the center and getting to the root. And the root is always going to be setting up a good environment for your children.
Mm-hmm. How do you get to that place? You've been in that place, you know, for families that are blended and are listening right now, getting from that place of pain to overcoming into a place of you know, victory, you know, getting above that. You know, what are some of the steps that you personally, Lisa, you know, had to overcome to get to that place?
The first thing that I remember my husband and I did, we were actually in premarital counseling. You have to write the vision and make it plain.
There you go.
You have to write it down and make it plain. We look at things that are secular, or we look at just our own personal goals, and we're quick to write those down. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to become. We write down our short-term goals, our long-term goals. We can plan our finances out that way, but we don't look at our family and our vision for our families in the same manner. When you write out your vision for your family and you start setting that out, and you say, okay, well, how can I start working to this? How can I start work? What are the barriers to this? Is it the communication? How can I help the communication? Is it my own hurt and pain? How do I deal with that? You have to write that vision out and start dealing with what's going on. I think they always say the first step is to recognize that there's an issue.
Yeah. And so vision is what we see.
Yes.
And so if you're writing down the vision, you're writing down what you want to see really through the eyes of faith.
Yes.
And what you're believing God for your family to become.
And that will help you as you continue, even when you're not seeing it. God, I know what you promised to me.
Yeah.
I know what's been promised to me. I'm going to stand on those promises. I'm not trying to stand on those promises just to get through to 5 years from now when the promise comes to pass, but I have enough faith to get through it even just today. And then tomorrow, I'll have enough faith to get through it for that day.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about the boundaries with the children. You know, you shared about the breakdown. So how do the boundaries really support them and make them feel safe?
Well, you want to make sure that you're not having negative conversations around your children about the co-parent or even the spouse in your home. You're not having negative conversations about them. That when you're talking to the children, that you build a rapport with them. So if you're talking to a bonus child and there is some disciplinary that needs to happen, some type of disciplinary action, that until they're all comfortable, both of the parents are present. so that there's no back and forth, or you told me to do this, but my real parent told me to do this. And you have that, you build that respect and rapport that we're supporting one another, and this is what we're asking you to do here.
Yes.
And this is what we want done.
So no he said, she said.
Yes.
But mom and dad said.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're really seeing the unity that you have to come in to agreement with in the blended family.
Yes.
Yeah, and
you have to have the unity in all the families.
Yes.
But really, in a blended family, it can become more divisive if it's not nipped in the bud.
What's encouragement? What encouragement would you really want to leave with our viewers who are having blended families right now, and maybe they're going through some of these struggles? You know, what are some things you'd want to share with them? Where do they start?
Hang in there. The first thing is to say that, you know what, yes, it's a bad situation right now, but it's not over. God always has the very last say so. And so you hang in there. You start to get some scriptures in. Start to look at those. Build up your own faith. And as you start to renew your mind, then you'll be able to see a difference in what's going on around you, because you're going to look at it different.
Sure.
Start changing your language. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Start changing your language. You're not going to save the world in a day, but you can start changing it for you and start learning it for you. And once you feel like, okay, I'm getting this, and you don't just get it in your mind, but start taking that into your heart. And then you're going to be able to progress from there. Talk to that spouse. This is what I'm seeing, and this is what I would like to change, and I think we can do it. Let's start looking at these scriptures. Let's start developing a vision for our family, and let's start acting on that. Let's start making the changes within us so our children can see something different. And take it day by day. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. And we want you to be encouraged on your way to becoming blended at the heart.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So well said, Lisa. You know, it is about the heart, and it's where our heart is with the Lord. And, you know, without a vision, we do perish. You know, we can write that down, and we can herald this is what we're doing and speak it out. And everybody in the family begins to hear that. And you're setting the standard, that great foundation of the Lord being, for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Well,
Amen.
I just want to thank you so much, Lisa, for being with us today, and, you know, the passion in your heart to see blended families really become all that Christ has created them to be. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I want to thank our viewers. Thank you for being with us today on Joy in Our Town. Till next time.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.